Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to be talking about UFC Vegas 60, Sandhagen versus Song, because it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got the former title challenger, Cory Sandhagen, a guy that a lot of people said at one point would be a future world champion, taking on another young phenom in Song Yadong, who many have also said might be a future world champion, and have also gone as far as saying might be the first male Chinese champion in UFC history. Because I know my girl Zhang Weili won that belt, so he wouldn't be the first Chinese champion, but maybe the first male Chinese champion. So lots to talk about. Hell of a main event. And also on the card, initially we had Sodiq Yusuff taking on Giga Chikadze. That fight fell off, but still got Chidi and Njokuani versus Gregory, Hobocop, Rodrigues. Got Fili and Algeo. So we got a lot to talk about. And there's a prospect I really, really like early on the card named Daniel Zellhuber. So we're going to talk about the whole card. So everybody smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, retweet, let everybody know we're live. And without further ado, let's get down to business, because the main event of the evening in the bantamweight division, scheduled for 5 rounds, we got the former title challenger, Cory Sandhagen. He's 14-4, representing the U.S., taking on Song Yadong, who's 19-6-1, representing China. And currently, they got it, Cory Sandhagen minus, we're going to be quoting DraftKings today, because thank you, DraftKings. They're sponsoring today's episode of the podcast. We got it minus 195, Cory Sandhagen. The comeback on Song Yadong is plus 165. So for me, those odds do stick out. You know, I understand the respect that Cory has, because people hold him in very high regard. And, you know, prior to those 2 losses, people were saying this guy's the future of the division. Even after the current champ, Aljamain Sterling, got him out of there in under a minute, people were still saying that Cory Sandhagen was the future of the division. And then he went out there, starched Frankie Edgar, you know, first flying knee through under a minute, gets him out of there. It was almost like people forgot about the Aljamain Sterling fight. And then the TJ Dillashaw fight happened. And, you know, a lot of people say it's a robbery, this and that. As someone who bet on Cory Sandhagen in that fight, let me tell you what my perspective was going to the judges' scorecard. So I thought we did enough to win the fight, but I was like, if Cory Sandhagen loses this fight, he's got no one to blame but himself. Because as the fight was going on, I was like screaming at the TV, like, Cory, stop fucking around. Like, I'm thinking, you got this guy in TJ Dillashaw who's coming off a 2-year, not even a steroid suspension, a EPO suspension, got knocked out his last fight against Cejudo. Like, let's go out there, let's flying knee this guy, let's get this guy out of there, let's make a statement that, hey, like, you are ready to truly fight for a title and potentially be a champion. And I saw, you know, I did see obviously some skill there. I mean, you know, he arguably won the fight, but I saw a lot of immaturity. I saw a lot of cockiness, a lot of arrogance. And basically, I felt like Cory Sandhagen got in his own way in that fight, was getting pinned up against the fence too much, was just playing around, and I just didn't like it. And even if he would have walked away with the win there, it did not go down. I was not expecting a split decision type fight. I was expecting a starching. I was expecting a welcome back to the UFC and pack your bags type performance. And that's just not what it was. So, you know, again, let's just, for argument's sake, say that Cory Sandhagen beat TJ Dillashaw. Still very underwhelming for the kind of standard we held for Cory Sandhagen. But what he does bring to the table is, you know, we were calling him the output king for the bantamweight division. I mean, his output's insane. You know, lands nearly 6.5 strikes per minute, which is ridiculous. You know, he switches his stances a lot. And obviously, you guys know that guys like him, guys like TJ Dillashaw, they model their styles after the great Dominic Cruz, but they kind of created their own thing with it. I mean, when you're dealing with a guy like Sandhagen, he's 5'11" at 135 pounds. That's like the equivalent of being a 6'3", 155er. He's got a 70-inch reach. He's a big boy for that weight class, big in terms of length. But with that, it means he's very skinny. It means he can be chopped down. And I do question not necessarily how he reacts to damage, because I know he's got an insane chin, even when you date back to the Yuri Alcantara fight, like where he was just getting smashed. And even the Peter Yan fight, he's able to absorb these ridiculous strikes. He did get dropped a few times, but the guy's tough as nails, but the guy definitely wears damage. And as the years progress, I'm just wondering, you're going up against a very, very heavy hitter here, Song Yadong, you know, are you going to be able to wear this damage as well? And another thing that's interesting about it is that the output isn't necessarily low on the Yadong side, you know, because usually Sandhagen has this massive output advantage, usually doubles up everyone he fights on output. And that's just not the case here, man. I mean, like, we have a sample size of Song Yadong going 3 rounds with Casey Kenny, landing 116 strikes. And that's 3 rounds, right? Now we got 5 rounds to work with, where obviously 2 more rounds to land even more strikes. Landed over 100 strikes against Marlon Vera. So we got two examples against 2 pretty decent fighters where he's landed over 100 significant strikes in 3 rounds. So I think the output's there. Obviously, Cory Sandhagen is going to be getting off on more output, no questions asked. But it's just about who's going to be landing the better quality of strikes here. Like, if the output not necessarily is relatively the same, like let's say Cory's kind of ahead on strikes for sure, which I expect him to be, but I don't expect him to be ahead on power strikes. I don't expect him to be ahead on, you know, big moments, right? Like, and I could be wrong about that. You know, a big flying knee could drop Song Yadong, maybe a high kick. You know, Kyler Phillips did catch him with a high kick in that fight, which Song Yadong ate. He's got a block head, man. He's got a ridiculous chin. But I think, or at least I hope, because I took the odds on Song Yadong here at plus 175. I mean, I thought they were good odds on a kid like this who, you know, I remember he was like 19 for like 5 years in a row, and he just always had a lot of promise. And, you know, back to the argument's sake type shit we were talking about, like, you know, we were talking about TJ Dillashaw versus Cory Sandhagen. For Cory Sandhagen, another controversial fight was the Marlon Chito Vera versus Song Yadong fight. And that's fine if you scored it for Cheeto. It's not a big deal, because we all know 3rd round Cheeto is, you know, a motherfucker. And that 3rd round Cheeto turns up on everybody. Not only that, Cheeto has the most finishes in UFC bantamweight history. That's just a fact. Wasn't able to get Song out of there. But what I take away from that is the output was there. And I need someone with output against Cory Sandhagen. If you don't have the output against Cory Sandhagen, you don't even have a fighting chance. I mean, obviously anybody could get clipped, 4-ounce gloves, right? And Song Yadong does crack, but if we want like a realistic chance that's not just banking on a knockout, we need serious output. And I think that Song Yadong has output enough to that, not necessarily match him on the numbers. Like, I think at the end of the day, Cory Sandhagen is going to be up on the numbers, but I think that Song has enough output to where he can make his hard shots count, to where that can sway the judges, assuming that there's no knockout on either side. Like, I'm talking in terms of, if this goes 5 rounds, that's how I would see Song winning, you know, with the bigger moments, landing the bigger shots, maybe getting a knockdown here and there, maybe wobbling him. But on the flip side, Cory Sandhagen, we know exactly how he'd win, assuming there's no finish. You know, double him up on strikes, right? You know, so it's a very, very intriguing fight. And Sandhagen, he's had a year off, so I expect him to come out here and look a lot better, you know. He's also a young kid. They're both super young. I mean, one was born in 1997. Song Yadong is the real young guy. But again, it just comes down to the odds for me always. I think the number is the most important thing, and I felt like I got a good number on Song Yadong at plus 175. So I was willing to roll the dice, put 1 unit on it, and see what happens. You know, nothing's going to surprise me here. I respect Cory Sandhagen. I think he's fantastic. Someone said it's a big step up for Song. I guess. I mean, he beat Chito Vera. He's been in there with tough guys. I'd say arguably he's got better wins than Cory Sandhagen. Who's the best guy Sandhagen's beat? The legendary Frankie Edgar, Marlon Moraes. Song also knocked out Marlon Moraes, you know. So, and I love Frankie, but Frankie's 40, man. This ain't the same Frankie that dethroned you know, the great BJ Penn, right? So yeah, I think I just think that the odds should be closer, you know, and Vegas agreed with me. I mean, they opened at minus 160 Cory Sandhagen. It just got steamed. The kid despite the 2 losses, still has a ton of hype. People still hold him in very, very high regard, and rightfully so. He's super talented. He's a cerebral kid. He's got a plethora of offense. His arsenal, striking wise, is definitely there. Physicality wise, obviously the length and the height and the reach is there, but he can definitely be muscled and bullied around. He can definitely be taken down, but he does create scrambles on the ground. He will attempt submission, so that'll be interesting to see. If Song Yadong does take him down, will Song be able to hold him down, or will Cory? He had a nice reverse triangle attempt in that TJ Dillashaw fight, so that'll be interesting to see. And my boy Leo's already getting involved. First fight of the night, and he's barking. So if he's barking, that means the dog's live. So yeah, I put 1 unit on Song Yadong plus 175. If we don't get a knockout, then what I'm hoping happens is that he not necessarily matches Cory on volume, but lands enough volume to where he makes his bigger strikes count. And similar to the Peter Yan fight, I know he's a completely different fighter than Peter Yan, but just have those big moments, wobble him from time to time, get a knockdown, make it look like the strikes that Cory Sandhagen's landing is not affecting him whatsoever. So it's all going to come down, if this fight goes the distance, to how the judges perceive what's going on. And if it's that close, then I got to go plus 175 Song Yadong. So hopefully I'm right about that, but we'll see. You got to give Cory Sandhagen a lot of respect. He's ultra talented. He's number 3 in the world for a reason. So, nothing would surprise me here, but I like plus 175 on Song Yadong. I think those are good odds. And yeah, I put 1 unit on it. Co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division. We got Chidi Njokuani. Chidi Njokuani. He's 22-7, taking on Gregory Hobocop Rodrigues, who's 22-4. Currently, they got it minus 110 apiece. So dead pick 'em. And I get why. I think it's a fantastic fight. So Gregory Hobocop, man, the dude is a banger. The guy literally will stand in the pocket with anybody, trade overhand rights to left hooks. He's got big leg kicks. He's a powerful, just physical presence inside the octagon. Both guys are black belts in jiu-jitsu. More people hold Gregory Rodrigues as black belt in higher regard, which I understand, because back in the day, Chidi did used to have a lot of issues on the mat, dating back to his Bellator days. You remember the Koreshkov fight and a couple of these other fights where he'd either get pinned up against the fence for extended periods of time, or even getting taken down and getting pounded out. But it seems to me like Chidi, in the UFC, he's been putting it together. I've been waiting for him, because in Bellator, it was the criticism I always had for Chidi was man, this guy's ultra talented, but he's kind of underwhelming for how good he is. I remember I max bet Chidi against Melvin Gillard, right? And if you look at their face off, one guy is 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. The other guy's 5'9", right? It's a lightweight versus a middleweight. I was thinking that, Chidi, let's just go out there and, knock him out with the first punch, knock him out in the first exchange, knock him out in the first round at least. And even then, don't get me wrong, it was a beatdown. It was a 30-24, it was a 30-25, but I was even underwhelmed, cashing a max bet winner there. I was thinking that he was going to get him out of there, no problem. So I used to think he was kind of underwhelming for how talented and how physical he is, and what I think of him, what I think he can be, especially if y'all are former WEC fans like myself. You remember his brother Anthony Njokuani. Remember when Anthony Njokuani won 3 straight knockout of the night awards back to back to back? Anthony Njokuani was the fucking man. He came to the UFC, had this amazing fight with Edson Barboza, then kind of, fell off a little bit. But Anthony Njokuani was the man at one point. Back in the WEC, it was always Benson Henderson, Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Anthony Njokuani, and Shane Roller. Those were the top 5 lightweights in the WEC at the time. So as a result of Anthony Njokuani's success, I always heard about his brother Chidi. And like I said, Chidi's always been ultra talented. He was just kind of underwhelming at times, and there were certain things that need to be patched up, but I think he has patched those things up. Evidence of these first 2 UFC fights. Now, some could say, small sample size, these fights didn't last that long, but I don't see anybody else knocking out Barriault with 1 punch. And Dushko, even the fight Dushko got knocked out against Puna Haley, he's still trying to get back up. He's still, trying to fight back, and the ref kind of mercifully stopped the fight. Whereas when Chidi landed that elbow on Dusko, there wasn't no fighting back. There wasn't no protest. There wasn't no let me take a few more. Let me prove that I'm still in there. Nah, that shit was over with. So Chidi's dangerous, man. He's very long. I like how he fights, but I like how Gregory Robocop fights too. And I think a pick'em is an appropriate price here. With Gregory, sometimes the criticism for him is that one, that he doesn't use his jiu-jitsu as much as he should. But the second criticism for him is that, and this is a criticism as a betting man, not a criticism as a fan. As a fan, this is a compliment. The guy is super willing to go in the pocket and just bang it out with anybody. So as a fan, you fucking love that shit. But as a betting man, when you want to, take that path to least resistance to cash a ticket, for a fact that RoboCop, he gives no fucks, man. He's gonna go out there and he's gonna put on a show, and that will leave him open to possibly getting clipped by a guy in Chidi who is as well versed on the feet as he is, and not only that, has a 5-inch reach advantage in the spot. Now, we did see RoboCop get knocked out by Jordan Williams on Contender Series, but I don't hold that against him like a lot of people do. Reason being is, I've talked about this many times. One, when you go life and death with everybody, when you stand and trade in the pocket with everybody, the chances of getting caught are just going to be there. Like, you're drawing a line in the sand. You're doing that dick measuring contest. You're throwing chingazos in the air, man, and someone's going to get clipped. That's just how it goes with that style of fighting. But two, Jordan Williams at 85s is a different guy than Jordan Williams at 70. At 70, the guy's got no chin. The doctors told him he shouldn't fight at 70s because of his medical condition. He has diabetes and shouldn't be cutting weight and this and that. But at 85s, like, Jordan Williams had like a gritty, close fight with Imavov. You guys see what Imavov's been doing lately. And Jordan Williams knocked out RoboCop. So I think Jordan Williams at 85s and at 70 is two different people. That's why I don't hold that loss against him like many people do. And not to mention, it's just that style. You go toe-to-toe with every single guy you fight, and chances are you might lose. And in that Petrosian fight, watching it live, I thought that RoboCop won that fight. But again, it's back to the betting man criticism you have of him, where he doesn't take that path to least resistance. Like, you're in there with this like K1 striker or whatever. We know that his ground game is probably his weakness. Like, but he's like, you know what? I want to stand and bang. He has the I want to stand and bang with Paul Daly approach, which as a fan we love, but as a betting man, it's hard to back. I'm not saying he can't win this fight. He can definitely win this fight. I think he's fantastic. I think he's physical. I think he hits hard. I think he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And with his style, anybody can win on any given night. But I think that actually Chidi might be slightly more reliable. So I'm going to lean Chidi's way, but I don't know, man. I think it's accurately lined to pick him. I think if you got dog money on either side, props to you. But here having to pay juice on both sides, I'm good on that. But I'll slightly lean with Chidi to get it done. Featured bout in the featherweight division, we got Andre Touchy Fili. He's 21-9, taking on Bill Senor Perfecto Algeo, who's 16-6. And currently, according to DraftKings, they got it -125 Andre Fili. The comeback on Bill Algeo is +105. Interestingly enough, there's another one that opened -160 for Bill Algeo. Lots of action came in on Andre Fili to flip the line, and then action came back in on Bill Algeo. And I actually took Algeo 1 unit at +115, simply because I expect this to be a super competitive, close fight. And in a coin flip fight, give me dog odds all day. And, I can't sit here and confidently say that I think Bill's going to win, because I think that Andre Fili is a formidable opponent. I think Andre Fili's been in there with the best of the best. He's had a very long UFC career. But Andre Fili, more often than not, doesn't really dominate too many people. He has had some dominant performances, don't get me wrong. I remember when he knocked out Gabriel Benitez. I remember when he knocked out Shaman Moraes. I remember when he dominated Daniel Pineda. So, let's not sit here and act like those fights didn't happen. But for the most part, a lot of his fights are super closely contested. And this guy Algeo is just kind of like, y'all ever seen Narcos? the show on Netflix, like if you watch the first season of Narcos, and I think it's even the first episode, and there was this quote, and I'm gonna botch the quote, but it was something along the lines of, "When a nuclear holocaust takes place, only the cockroaches survive." And like this dude, Bill Algeo, is so goddamn durable. He gets taken down 8 times, but he'll get back up 8 times too, and he's gonna be in there for the whole fight. He's got insane volume. He's very long for the weight class. So here's the thing. It's like Andre Fili is actually the younger guy, but I don't think Andre Fili is the younger guy in terms of mileage that he's taken. I think Andre Fili, I mean, when did Andre Fili make his UFC debut against Jeremy Larson? It was back in 2013. So we're approaching the 10-year mark of this UFC career for Andre Fili. He's been in there a long ass time. He's competed with the best of the best, and you got to give him credit. He's long. He sets up his high kick nicely. He's got a good jab. One thing I've always liked about Fili, one thing I think has always been underrated about Fili is that blast double. I've seen him go out there and hit that blast double on D1 wrestlers. Point in case, the Dennis Bermudez fight. So Andre Fili is not someone to be slept on. It's just that Andre Fili, when he does hit that takedown, it's not that his top control isn't good. It's just that at this level of the game, these guys know how to get up. These guys know how to sweep. You saw Sodiq Yusuff go out there and hit that Kimura sweep on him. You see some of these other guys get right back up right away. And Algeo is one of these guys that can scramble up to his feet. Now, the things that have haunted Algeo in the past is, although he's as tall as he is, although he's got the reach that he does have, back to the Cory Sandhagen fight, being that tall guy, he's kind of a skinny guy. So he can be there to be chopped down with calf kicks. But to his credit, he switches stances a lot. So it's going to be tricky to time those, and he can be taken down. So when he gets taken down here, there's going to be some pivotal moments. Like these are going to be the moments that decide the fight. I do think Andre Fili is going to hit some takedowns in this fight. But when that happens, is Bill Algeo just accepting bottom position, or is Algeo scrambling back up, making Fili work for every single takedown, and from there get off 2-1 on strikes, compared to Fili. Fili have a shot here and there, but Algeo just kind of consistently pepper him with volume and kind of pull away down the stretch on the judges' scorecards. So again, I see it being a very close competitive fight, a coin flip fight. Now, it might not play out like a coin flip fight, but going into it before the fact, I cap it as a coin flip fight. So with that said, I put one unit on Bill Algeo at plus 115 odds. I think he's trending in the right direction. I think he's paid his dues, not just in the UFC, but on the regional scene as well. I've had an interesting history with both guys, betting wise. So with Bill Algeo, let's see. I bet on him against Spike Carlisle, so I cashed there. I bet against him with the Joe Anderson Brito fight. I lost there. And then speaking of Joe Anderson Brito, one of my biggest underdog hits of this year, I bet Joe Anderson Brito again his next fight against Fili, cashed a plus 250. I bet on Sodiq Yusuff against Fili, cashed there. I bet on Shaman Moraes against Fili, lost there. I know I picked Fili against Bermudez. Not sure if I bet it or not. And I think I was on Calvin Kattar against Fili when Calvin was a big dog making his UFC debut. I bet on Yair Rodrigues against Fili. So I got a long history with Fili and kind of a growing history with Algeo. So I'm somewhat familiar with both. And just my intuition tells me it's going to be a close fight. Just like most Fili fights are. If he doesn't get blown out the water, they're usually close fights. I don't think Algeo is going to blow him out the water. I kind of see it being 1-1 going to the third round, and who's going to kind of pull away late down the stretch, that remains to be seen. So in a fight like that, again, willing to roll the dice, take my chances, and put one unit at plus 115 on Bill Algeo. So let's see what happens. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Alen Amedovski. He's 8-3, representing Macedonia. He's taking on newcomer Joseph Pyfer, who is 9-2, repping the United States of America. Currently, they got a Joe Pyfer minus 425. The comeback on Alen Amedovski is plus 340. So I know this seems like very, very easy money to a lot of people, and I get why, because it's like Alen Amedovski has not been impressive at all whatsoever. And, Dana White was very, very happy with Joe Pyfer. But let me put some context on that. I'm not trying to downplay Joe Pyfer. I'm not trying to be disrespectful because I do find him very entertaining. I think he's a hard hitter. I think he comes from a good camp, and I think he can get some stuff done. But if he's going to consistently be minus 400 in the UFC, there's going to be some good fade spots because I don't view him as a minus 400 kind of guy. You look at his fight right before his last Contender Series fight. I mean, we can say stuff about the Stoltzfus fight if we want, but, you know, flukes happen, injuries happen, but Stoltzfus still did pick him up and slam him. But it was an injury, whatever. We'll act like it wasn't that big of a deal. But the next fight, he takes on this 3-0 guy, and I didn't like the volume from Pyfer. Pyfer got rocked against this random 3-0 guy. He's kind of like a brute. He's kind of like this big physical guy. He's a little bit on the slower side, but he kind of makes up for it with his power. And Amedovski, the thing is, like, pre-UFC, Amedovski was crushing cans too, right? It's just when you get to the UFC, that's a completely different level. And I think Pyfer is going to struggle in the UFC, just not in this matchup. I just personally wouldn't be laying minus 400 on a guy like Pyfer. I don't think that he's a minus 400 kind of guy. Now, every matchup is different, of course, and Amedovski has been horrendous in the UFC, so Pyfer probably gets it done here. But what I'm hoping happens, I hope Pyfer knocks him out in like the first exchange spectacularly, and then I hope Pyfer is a juiced favorite against someone that's actually good, and then we go in there and hammer those dog odds, because I am not sold on Joe Pyfer one bit. The reason that he was so hyped up is because every fight on that show he was on Contender Series was so terrible that the fact that he actually knocked out his opponent, like, that's all he had to do to stand out. And like up until the knockout, it was back and forth, man. Like, he was given a position, he was ending up on his back. Like, it wasn't that great until the knockout. So yeah, I kind of think he's a little bit overrated, and that's with all due respect. As a fan, I enjoy him. He's fun. He's a brute. He's exciting. He hits hard. But as a betting man, I ain't laying no minus 400 on no Joe Pyfer, dude, even if I think he's going to win this fight. So the best outcome here is for Joe Pyfer to come out here and knock this guy out, and then the next fight, he fights someone that's actually somewhat decent, and we slam those dog odds. So that's what I'm hoping happens. So yeah, I'm going to pick Joe Pyfer to win this fight, but you ain't going to catch me dead laying no minus 425 on a guy like that who, if I had to compare him to another fighter, do y'all remember Kyle Stewart? I kind of think he's like a Kyle Stewart. Hits hard, a little bit on the slower side. The output isn't the best. Might be prone to gassing out down the stretch. Yeah, so I know it sounds like I'm shitting on Joe Pyfer. I just have to keep it real. He's minus 425 here. You know, if it was a pick'em fight, we'd be having I'd still be laying out all the details, but, I think I'd come off less harsh. But minus 425, like, I need some fucking guarantees. You know what I'm saying? So I think he wins this fight, and hopefully impressively, because next fight, that's when I'm going to be interested in taking a dog look, depending who he fights. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Canada's Tanner Boser. He's 28-1, taking on Rodrigo Nascimento, who is 8-1, representing Brazil. Currently, they got it. Tanner Boser minus 170. The comeback on Rodrigo Nascimento is plus 145. It's a tough one for a couple of reasons. So Tanner Boser, I kind of viewed him as, like, when he first came to the UFC, I thought he was like the Canadian big country, but he was like a volume guy, which was interesting. And then he had a couple of knockouts along the way. The Philippe Linge one. He knocked out Pessoa too, right? Pretty sure he knocked out Pessoa. Yeah, he knocked out Pessoa. And then with Rodrigo Nascimento, he looked really good on Contender Series with that arm triangle. Submitted Dante Almeida easily. Chris Dawkins fight kind of got blown out the water. And I bet on Rodrigo Nascimento in the next fight against Alen Badeau. I thought Alen Badeau, is probably, on the lower caliber of fighters in heavyweight history. So I bet on him there. Rodrigo gave me a scare. He won that fight because he's actually got hard. He was just the tougher dude. weathered a storm, a serious storm, and then came back and just broke the guy. But I don't think Tanner Boser is necessarily going to break. It's just, to me, this fight comes down to where it takes place. Not that Tanner Boser has this hole on the mat. It's just he's not a black belt like Rodrigo Nascimento. Rodrigo Nascimento takes his back. Rodrigo Nascimento full mounts him. And I think that Rodrigo Nascimento can finish the fight there. It's just on the feet. The chin of Rodrigo is questionable, like not just the Dawkins fight, but like I mentioned, the aforementioned Alen Badeau fight where he gave us all a scare that bet him there. The same thing could happen here, man. And Tanner Boser is a lot tougher than Alen Badeau. So I don't know. I'm not interested in laying the minus 170 on Boser because if it hits the mat, I think he's outmatched there. But if he's able to keep it standing, he's most likely going to piece him up. I say most likely because they're still heavyweights, and Rodrigo Nascimento is the bigger guy. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. And a lot of people, funnily enough, were saying that Boser should consider dropping to light heavyweight, which I kind of find funny considering that he weighed in 255 pounds his last fight. So I kind of disagree with that. But yeah, I'm a lean Boser, but I'm not sure, man. I really don't know. Now, this next one I also have a bet on. In the middleweight division, kicking off the main card, we got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who's 9-2, taking on Marc-Andre Barriault, who is 14-5. And currently, they got it. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez minus 175. The comeback on Marc-Andre Barriault is plus 150. And this is another one that opened a little bit closer. It opened minus 150 for Hernandez. The comeback on Barriault was plus 130, but Hernandez did get steamed a little bit, and I get why. He's looked very, very impressive his last few fights. And Hernandez is a very gritty guy. You got to give him a lot of credit. I'll never forget his Contender Series debut when he just went out there and just starched the Beverly Hills Ninja in the first exchange. Just walked him down, went right after him, and just knocked him out and got him out of there. But there's been some questionable performances since then, the next 3 fights. But then after that, he's been on a roll these last few. But I have seen, in the Marcus Perez fight, in the Jong Young Park fight, in the Kevin Holland fight, there was some susceptibility to the body. Now, granted, he has looked in a little bit better shape these last few fights. Not that he wasn't in good shape in the fights that he lost or whatever. It's just that I guess he upped his strength and conditioning program or, just tried some new methods out or whatever. He's been looking good these last few fights, submitted Rodolfo Vieira, which is obviously a feather in his cap. We can say it was due to fatigue and exhaustion, but still to submit a guy like that, even fatigued is a big deal. And it goes back to the, kind of like the front headlock series that Anthony Hernandez has. Nasty guillotine, nasty anaconda, nasty darce. Like, this guy gets on your neck, he can dangle off of it. And in that Josh Frem fight, I was there in attendance. And one thing I always like to talk about is these guys that can attempt takedown after takedown after takedown are matchup problems, especially up at middleweight. Like I usually talk about it down in lower weight classes. He attempted 11 takedowns against Josh Frem, but Marc-Andre has had an issue with his takedown defense in the past, but I think that his get-up game has been improving. And one thing I really like about Marc-Andre Barriault is that he got outside his comfort zone. He was a guy that was training in Canada, in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, was eating his poutine every day. And, he got outside his comfort zone and went to Sanford MMA. He's been there for the last year, and he's training with guys in his weight class. RoboCop, who's on this card that he's fighting on, Brendan Allen, Gerald Mearshard's down there too. I think Phil Haas might have even stopped by for a few training sessions. So he's got really good training partners to work with. And you take a guy like that who's already like talented, and even the fights he lost early on in his UFC career were like closely contested fights. There was just like something missing, right? Just like one ingredient missing. And I'm hoping the answer to that was, this move to Sanford MMA, because you look at the numbers. So we know the power has been there. The guy's a very heavy hitter, knockout artist, but he's got volume too. He's got output. I mean, for a middleweight in that Abu Azaitar fight, which didn't even see the final bell, he landed 141 significant strikes. Next fight against Dalcha Lungjambula, who, he may have had his ups and downs in the UFC, but he's still an African. He can still bang. He's still got big power. And Marc stood up and banged with him, landed 118 significant strikes. got clipped against Chidi. Shit happens. And Jordan Wright fight got him out of there in the first round, exactly like you're supposed to. Maybe not as impressively as Fluffy did, but still, you're supposed to get that guy out of there in the first round. That's exactly what he did. So I was happy about that. So I took Andre Barriault plus 155. I can't say I'm super confident, but what I can say is that I think it has the potential to be a very, very close fight. And I guess my biggest concern would be back to Barriault's early UFC fights where, he could be grinded up against that fence. He could be taken down multiple times. I think he's been getting better in terms of maybe he can still get taken down, but I think he can pop back up, and I think he can make you work a little bit harder. I think it's tougher to hold him down. And I think his cardio has improved a lot. I think he's got big output for the weight class, and I think he can fight at a really ridiculous pace, which is something you need to fight a guy like Fluffy Hernandez. Because Fluffy Hernandez, like, the dude can weather storms. The dude will be there. And then I'm hoping, since I bet on Barriault at plus 155, that he can attack the body of Fluffy Hernandez, which is something that got exposed in his first 3 UFC fights. Against Maluko, ate a big body kick, then got his neck dangled off of. Against Zhang Park, got badly outclassed in the early going, and then had a bit of a comeback win. And then the Kevin Holland fight, Kevin just went out there, attacked that body, and got him out of there right away. So the path to victory for Fluffy is more on the grinding side of things and possibly finding a way to set up a submission. And from Barriault is to make Fluffy work for the takedown attempts, get back up, make it hard to hold down, be greasy in there, and then start to attack the body, start to kind of pull away down the stretch with more output. So if this is one of these 1-to-1 going to the third round type fights, which I think it might be, then, hopefully I'm on the right side here with one unit on Barriault at plus 155. So let's see what happens. It's a tough fight. It's just I like the odds. So, yeah, give me a Barriault plus 155. Hopefully he doesn't get grinded out here. Now, next up in the featherweight division, actually, before we talk about that, I got to give a big shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. So before I do that, everybody smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. I truly appreciate you all being here with me. Thank you very much. So, and also shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's episode of Half the Battle. Thank you, DraftKings Sportsbook. So the NFL's opening week was action-packed, and it's just getting started. Get ready for week 2 of touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any football game and get $200 in free bets instantly. Want more action? Everyone can experience the thrill of DraftKings early win promotion. It's simple. This Sunday, bet on any NFL team to win. If you're me, you're going to bet on the Falcons. Hopefully we get it. If we get it done this time, excuse me. If your team leads by 10 at any point during the game, you get paid instantly, even if your team loses. Fight fans, DraftKings also has you covered. Don't forget about the highly anticipated UFC Vegas 60 going down this Saturday. And y'all already know there's going to be some really good spots on this card. Chidi and RoboCop, for a fact that someone might hit the deck in that fight. You got Fluffy. If Fluffy comes out here, hits some takedowns, that's a spot. The main event, the Output King Sandhagen versus the Chinese KO King, besides Li Jingliang, Song Yadong. There's a chance to there's a chance to get some points down there. So guys, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Levy to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code Levy, my last name, spelled just like Levi Jeans, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So again, thank you, DraftKings Sportsbook, for sponsoring today's episode of the podcast. Make sure y'all hit them up. Use my promo code Levy, my last name, and hit them up on that deal. Sounds like a pretty damn good deal to me. Next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Damon, the Leech, Jackson. Should we still call him the Leech? I know he fights like a leech, but my boy Li Jingliang is the real Leech. Damon Jackson's 21-4, taking on Pat Sabatini, who is 17-3. And currently they got it. Pat Sabatini minus 190. The comeback on Damon Jackson is plus 160. So it's an interesting one. Damon Jackson's definitely looked better in this current run in the UFC. I mean, he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's won 4 of his last 5, which is something I never thought I'd say back in the day. If y'all remember his first UFC run, when my boy Honey Jason was out there submitting him, and Yancy Medeiros was out there submitting him, but now dude's turned things around. He's matured in the sport. He's come a long way. But he's taking on this kid in Sabatini who, okay, so how I was talking about earlier with RoboCop, how like as a fan you love him, but as a betting man, it's kind of like certain things are questionable. It's the opposite with Pat Sabatini. As a fan, might be a bit on the boring side, but as a betting man, this dude is a fucking winner. Like, I know the numbers say his output is super low, and it is super low, but this is another one of these guys that can go out there, attempt 10 takedowns in a fight and hit 6 of them like he did in his last fight, attempt 11 takedowns and hit 5 of them and like he did in his second to last fight, get a first round heel hook submission against a pretty damn good wrestler like he did 3 fights ago, and decisively beat, a guy he's supposed to beat and land a knockdown like he did against Tristan Connolly in his debut. So look, it might not be spectacular what Pat Sabatini does as a fan. You might consider him a boring fighter, but as a betting man, the guy's a winner. The guy's a little tank. The guy's cocked. The guy comes from a good gym, and for winning fights and winning rounds, I like his style. Now with Damon Jackson, you got to be wary of a few things. He's a big featherweight, 5'11". He's got the 71-inch reach. They call him the leech for a reason. I mean, this guy will hang on to you like glue, and he's another one that can be relentless with the takedown attempts, but he's also a guy that I think will give up position and will kind of slow down as the fight progresses, like we saw in that last one. Granted, the kid he fought was tough. It's just, if you're doing that against that kid who was just making his debut here against Sabatini, who's a proven round winner, that's where I kind of draw the line. So I get why people took Damon Jackson, because you see the plus 180 or whatever the odds were, and you think it might be a 1-to-1 going to the third round type fights. More often than not, I like to be on the dog side. It's just that on the subject and the topic of being 1-1 going to the third round, I trust Sabatini more to be the guy who hits that last takedown to get the judge's attention and just seal it off on the judge's scorecards. That's assuming there's not a finish somewhere along the way, because these guys will be grappling and someone could potentially get submitted. Don't discount that possibility, but I trust Sabatini more, and for that reason, I'll pick him to win. And speaking of trust, these next 3 fights, I have no trust whatsoever in any of these fighters. Before I talk about these next few fights, can I just skip these 3 for now and talk about my boy Daniel Zellhuber, who like I have a bet on, who I think is a fucking serious prospect, who I think is one of the best prospects we've seen in a long, long time. Like, can I skip this Louis Cosce, Aspen Lad, Loma stuff for now? We'll get to that in a sec. Let me talk about Daniel Zellhuber. Like, I want to talk about Daniel Zellhuber. So in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Trey Ogden. He's 15-5, taking on Mexico's Daniel Zellhuber, who was 12-0. Daniel Zellhuber is how you pronounce it, actually. Currently, they got it. Where's this at? Daniel Zellhuber, minus 300. The comeback on Trey Ogden's plus 250. So I took Daniel Zellhuber at minus 245. Now he's minus 300. So odds-wise, I did my job. For a kid coming into the UFC, making his debut, I am very, very, very impressed with this kid. Like, he, out of all the prospects we've been seeing lately, this is one that, like, listen, I've been wrong about this shit in the past, but I'm going to at least give you my opinions before the fact, not just after the fact. You see all these fucking guys posting tickets after the fact, only if shit wins, and be like, oh, I told you, rah, 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 but they don't have the balls to say shit before the fact. I'm going to say shit before the fact, and if I'm wrong, I'll fall on my face and take it like a man. But I think that this kid, Daniel Zellhuber, a couple years from now, will be in the top 15, will be in the top 10, assuming he doesn't suffer an unfortunate injury along the way that stunts his growth or something, something like that. But like, I think this kid is so legit, man. Okay, so firstly, he's a lightweight, 155 pounds, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, already very physical. He's got some ridiculous striking, but it's not even about that for me, because tons of guys have flash, tons of guys, can impress you, knocking out cans on the regional scene. But like, what about this kid's composure? This kid went in there against Lucas Almeida, the guy that just knocked out Mike Trizano on in his UFC debut. And he weathers the storm of storms in that first round and like is not phased. He's getting hit big time, and he's just going with it, showing his heart. And this is after like this kid Zellhuber was just running through literally everybody on his regional scene impressively. I'm talking spin kicks, I'm talking flying knees, I'm talking calf slicers, like the whole nine, every flashy move you can think of, flying knees. Like I said, this kid Zellhuber's been doing, but he also establishes his jab. He can also get off on leg kicks. He can also fight fundamentally sound, but he's got that flash like a Yair Rodrigues, kind of like an early John Jones. Like, I don't know, man. I like this kid. He looks serious to me, but you got questions about, okay, so where does he train? So he did his whole like career in Mexico. And shout out to his coaches that got him to this point. Mucho respect, or much respect, you know what I'm saying, to get him to this point. But he had to make a change. And I think he's 22, 23, for a 23-year-old kid to get out his comfort zone at that age, goes to Thailand, Tiger Muay Thai for a few months, trains with all the Russians and all the killers there. Now he's in Vegas full time with Eric Nixick as his head coach, molding him. I just think that we're about to be seeing something special with this kid. And like, I could not be more excited about a UFC debut than I am about this kid, Daniel Zellhuber. And hopefully he doesn't drop the ball, because, the scariest thing about it is that he's just a kid. He's a young kid, and kids make mistakes. But long term, I'm telling y'all, unless something crazy happens, this kid is going to be a problem. This kid's going to be a money machine. And I think he's gonna scratch the rankings one day. So I love this kid, Daniel Zellhuber. Now his opponent, Trey Ogden, he's a veteran. He's a gritty guy. He's been around the block. He's fought, I'd say, minus Lucas Almeida, he's fought the tougher level of competition. But he's also lost to all the quote unquote tough guys he's fought. And when I say that, like the UFC vets he's fought. What's the name of the kid that Mike Davis face planted really badly? The tall guy that runs barefoot, Thomas Gifford. They fought twice. Trey Ogden took him down right into a guillotine choke 2 times, which is funny because like you hear Trey Ogden talk in his interviews, and he actually seems kind of like a smart guy. It's just when he gets out there, ain't the smartest guy. Fight IQ and regular IQ are 2 different things. And Zellhuber's got both. Zellhuber graduated college, and he actually fights like a smart guy in there. Zellhuber's something else. Now, I guess the big concern here is, well, what happens if Trey Ogden takes him down? Because, Trey Ogden does have good takedowns. He's got good top control. He's got some good submissions. Trains with James Krause, this, that, the other. Okay, he's the veteran here. I respect it. So a couple fights ago with Trey Ogden, let me pull it up. So Trey Ogden goes in there. I'm talking about like 2020, late 2020, against this dude, Cody Carrillo, who was 15 and 18 at the time, is currently 16 and 22, is 40 years old. Okay? 40 years old. Trey Ogden takes him down, and this 40-year-old is able to get back up. Trey Ogden takes his back. The 40-year-old's able to get out of it and get back up. Now, eventually, the 40-year-old wasn't able to survive the later attempts, and he succumbed and got tapped out. But I'm just saying, if this 40-year-old can stuff these first few attempts, what's going to happen was if Trey Ogden even does take him down, we're just talking worst case scenarios here, because I did lay the chalk, so I gotta assume, I gotta think about all what could happen here. I'm not going to just be cocky and say that, oh, we're just going to knock him out with the first flying knee. That'd be great. But like, let's assume we got to overcome a little adversity, maybe a takedown or two. If that 40-year-old 2 fights ago was getting back up against Trey Ogden, then who's to say that Daniel Zellhuber is not going to get back up against him? The difference is that 40-year-old didn't make Trey Ogden pay for anything. Zellhuber's going to make him pay, and how? He's going to make him pay badly. Calf kicks, long jabs, knees up the middle, straight right hands, question mark kicks, spins, submission attempts. So then you look at Trey Ogden's last fight against Jordan Levitt, which already losing to Jordan Levitt's a big red flag, right? I mean, when you're talking about like someone who has aspirations to be an upper echelon guy, maybe if you're talking about a lower tier regional guy, then okay, we can let it slide. But if you have aspirations to one day be a ranked guy, you better be getting past Jordan Levitt. Now, for argument's sake, let's act like Trey Ogden won that fight. Okay, let's just say that he got robbed, even though I don't think so. But let's just, for argument's sake, say that Trey Ogden arguably won the Jordan Levitt fight. All right, let's give him that. The fact that like you were getting spar touched up by Jordan Levitt with his, little sidekicks that just slap, and the dude's twerking, the dude's like, bro, that shit ain't gonna fly here. This dude Zellhuber ain't about to be twerking. This dude Zellhuber ain't about to slap and run. This dude Zellhuber ain't playing around. This guy is going to try to hurt you. And if you couldn't hurt a guy like Jordan Levitt, you couldn't bite down that mouthpiece against Jordan Levitt. What's gonna happen here against this 6'1" guy with a 77-inch reach, who's actually a legit prospect, a legit athlete, and possibly the future of the division? Possibly. I could be way off on that. I once said Johnny Walker was going to see great heights, but different guys, different weight classes. Just saying, I've been wrong about this shit before, but I see something special in Daniel Zellhuber. I think he's going to knock out Trey Ogden. So I laid it -245 to win 1 unit. And let's go, kid. Let's make a statement. Let's come out here. Like, you already had your tough test against Lucas Almeida. You overcame adversity. You showed what kind of heart you have. You showed your balls. You showed what kind of man you are as a 22-year-old kid. And now you got outside your comfort zone, trained in Thailand for 3 months with all those Russians, trained in Vegas with Eric Nixick, one of the best coaches and minds in the game. And I messaged Nixick. Me and Nixick text from time to time, because back when I did that show with Dan Tom on Line Movement, so Dan Tom's coach is Nixick, so Nixick came on the show, so I've stayed in touch with him ever since. So I messaged him. I was like, what's the ceiling on this kid Zellhuber? Seems pretty special to me. And he said, bro, pause, real fucking good. He's a problem. And I was like, say less, because I already knew that much. So yeah, let's get it, man. Let's fucking go, Zellhuber. Even if he loses this fight, he's got a higher ceiling than Trey Ogden, but I think he knocks out Trey Ogden. So let's get it. All right, I guess we can talk about these. We can zoom past these last few fights. Next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Trevin Giles. He's 14-4, taking on Louis Cosce, who was 7-1. Currently, they got it. Trevin Giles -205. The comeback on Louis Cosce is +175. It's a tough one, because it's like you got Trevin Giles, who's clearly more experienced, been in there with a much better level of competition, but might kind of be at the end of the rope. And then you got this kid Louis Cosce, who doesn't really have any experience whatsoever, just got finished by a 5-2 guy who's no longer in the promotion, but at least he's got less wear and tear on him. But like, it's not even like this is like some bright prospect or something. So you got to lean Giles with the experience. It's just Giles has been knocked out 2 fights in a row. Giles looked really bad dropping to 170 pounds, and surprisingly, he's only 30. For some reason, I thought he was like 34, 35. So he's relatively still young. I do got to go with the experience. I mean, we're dealing with a guy who beat Ryan Spann, beat James Krause, beat Romando Lidze. Even the guys he's lost to are all studs. Lost to Michael Morales, who I think has a bright future. Lost to Dricus Duplessis, who's about to be ranked here soon. Lost to Gerald Mershart, most submissions in middleweight history. And then with Louis Cosce, the fuck has Louis Cosce ever done? He beat a bunch of bums. Is basically it. I mean, look at the last few guys he beat. Victor Reina, who is probably the best guy he's beat, but Victor Reina just couldn't quite get over the hump and make it to the big show. And then prior to that, he beat a 4-6 guy. He beat a 4-8 guy. He beat an 18-42 guy. He beat a 0-0 guy, a 2-3 guy, and a 4-4 guy. So he's never beat anybody ever. The only thing that he's got on his side here is youth. But I don't know, man. I think he still needs a little bit more experience. It's just, can I trust Trevin Giles at a price like this? I personally can't. Maybe you can. I can't. I mean, when Trevin Giles is up on the scorecards and then instead of throwing punches, he's like, woo, and just doing a bunch of dumb shit. You got no one to blame but yourself for laying that chalk on him. But I think most likely that jab is going to be there. I think that Trevin Giles is going to be able to mix in takedowns and just kind of give this kid a vet lesson. So I'll go Trevin Giles. Not interested at the price. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got Aspen Ladd. Can y'all believe she's still in the UFC? And I'm not even talking in terms of she's lost 2 in a row. Plenty of people have lost 2 in a row. I've seen people lose 4 in a row and still get a chance, like my boy Leonard Garcia. But you know why Leonard Garcia got a chance? Losing 4 in a row, I think he lost even more than that and still got a chance. Because Leonard Garcia bangs. Leonard Garcia brings it every single time, or brought it, if we're talking past tense. Did you all see that Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont fight? Neither did I, because I didn't even see a fight break out. I just saw 2 people stare at each other. That was horrendous. After that, that one fight alone was enough to me. I never want to see Aspen Ladd fight ever again. And unfortunately, I had to see her fight again because I was in attendance at her last fight. The same night Hamzat fought Gilbert Burns, the Volkanovski and Korean Zombie fight. So I saw her fight Raquel Pennington, do nothing the first 2 rounds, and then kind of come back a little bit in the 3rd round. And then with Sara McMann, she's someone I look to fade every single fight. I lost on Carl Hossa. That was annoying. Aspen Ladd's -140. Sara McMann's +120. So it's like Aspen Ladd can't do shit unless she can get on top of you. From there, she makes a couple sound effects that make the refs, kind of think that she's doing more than she really is. So I guess her ground and pound and her top control is whatever. That's the best part of her game. Aside from that, there's nothing to her game. And with Sara McMann, she's actually pretty damn good, physically speaking. Olympic wrestler, throws big bombs. It's just mentally, you put her in one bad spot and she'll check out. So Sara McMahon's the better fighter, so I'll pick her, which I never thought I'd ever pick Sara McMann. But when Sara McMahon's up 2-0 and then she quits in the 3rd round, don't be crying about that. So just don't bet on a fight like this. I'll pick Sara McMann, but the fact that I'm picking Sara McMann should let you know all I have to say about this fight, right? If you ever have trouble sleeping at night, pull up that Norma Dumont versus Aspen Ladd fight. You want to know something? There was some fucking journalist, I don't remember who. He made this tweet about, y'all remember that fucking badass fight between Mateus Gamrot and Arman Sarukian? And he was saying all this shit about how, Mateus Gamrot and Arman Sarukian has to be the worst main event in UFC history. And I'm like, did your dumbass watch Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont? Yeah, I get it. A fight didn't break out between those two. But then Mateus Gamrot and Arman Sarukian ended up being this fucking amazing 5-round scramble fest, which even going into it, I was excited about. And Norma Dumont and Aspen Ladd had already taken place. And you're going to disrespect 2 top 10 guys like that? Disgusting. Atrocious. Terrible. I never want to see Aspen Ladd fight ever again. So I hope Sara McMann wins. But don't, if she quits again after dominating, you can't, you know, and you bet on it, you can't blame anybody but yourself, because she's 42 years old and she's pulled these stunts many times. But let's see. So I don't fucking know, man. I've already given y'all my 4 bets. You know what I'm saying? My boy VCR Repairman said, I did tape study. That Dumont Ladd fight did put me to sleep. Yeah. If y'all got insomnia, y'all got sleep apnea, just pop on Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. And Norma Dumont does have some features I like, if you know what I mean. But that fight was so boring that it even overrode the things that we like about Norma Dumont. Anyways, next up in the strawweight division, we got Loma Lukbumi. She's 6-3, taking on Denise Gomez, who is 6-1. Currently, they got it. Loma Lukbumi minus 225. The comeback on Denise Gomez is plus 190. Another one where not crazy about the price. Loma Lukbumi, more UFC experience, fought the better level of competition, but kind of tiny for the weight class. Luckily for her, Denise Gomez ain't exactly the biggest either. Both 5'2", 5'1", tiny ass reaches. Denise Gomez is a tough chick though, man. I liked her Contender Series fight. Went out there, landed over 100 significant strikes, doubled up her opponent on strikes. So I definitely think she'll give Loma Lukbumi an honest fight here. Landed more fights in that one than Loma Lukbumi has in any of her UFC fights. I guess I'll lean Loma with the UFC experience, but just don't be surprised, man. Don't be surprised to see it be another split decision fight that could go either way. People are crying robbery and this and that. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Maria Agapova, who's 10-3, taking on Jillian Robertson, who's 10-7. Currently, they got it. Jillian Robertson minus 145. The comeback on Maria Agapova is plus 125. Interesting. Maria Agapova actually opened minus 130, so Vegas was favoring her initially. These two actually used to train together, so I'd be curious if any of their trainers are watching this and y'all know who got the better of the exchanges, if y'all know the dynamic of how these two match up. I mean, I know the dynamic of how they match up. Jillian needs to get it to the mat and Maria needs to keep it standing. I mean, unless Maria can rock her and then choke her out. But Maria Agapova, we've seen some flashes of some talent. Like, she's a heavy hitter. She's aggressive, but sometimes she can kind of empty the clip and then get overwhelmed. The Shanna Dobson fight was definitely a stunt. I didn't think the Marina Moroz fight was a stunt. I just thought she was in there with a much more experienced fighter. Marina Moroz has been doing her thing in the UFC for a long ass time. So I just thought that was just an experience thing. But the Shanna fight was definitely not an experience thing. That was a stunt and a half. But the Sabina Mazo fight, I thought she looked really good in that fight. I thought her hands looked powerful. I thought she was able to take the back nicely and get that choke. With Jillian Robertson, her game has never changed. I mean, we know exactly what Jillian Robertson wants to do. Jillian Robertson wants to take you down. Jillian Robertson wants to choke you out or get top control right out the rounds that way. And if she can do that, then she'll probably win this fight. But if Maria Agapova can come out here and stuff, Maria is going to light her up standing. On the feet, it's not close. I don't think that Jillian, it's just like back on The Ultimate Fighter when Eddie Alvarez was the coach. He's like, you know what Jillian wants to do? If she can't get her takedown, she quits. And all the girls freaked out when he said that. But I mean, there's been this trend here. So I guess I'm going to say she gets the takedown because we have seen Maria Agapova get finished twice on the mat in the UFC. But all I got to say is if Maria stuffs these takedowns, it's going to look like a hindsight big favorite for Maria if she can keep this standing. So we'll see. This fight comes down to the dynamic of where it takes place. And again, if any of her coaches or former training partners are watching and know the story of what happened when the two used to train together, let me know because, maybe I can have an inside edge there. But since I don't have that inside edge, I'll just lean with Jillian to get it to the mat. But again, picking Jillian is contingent on her getting it to the mat. She doesn't get it to the mat, she's not winning this fight, period, point blank. So, yeah. Now, next up, this should be fun. This fight I like. In the bantamweight division, we got Tony Gravely. He's 23-7, taking on Javid Basharat, who is 12-0. These are two badasses right here. Currently, they got it Javid Basharat minus 165. The comeback on Tony Gravely is plus 140. Now, one thing to note, this one opened a dead pick'em. So the public really liked Javid Basharat, and I get why. I mean, the kid's a stud. You saw his brother on Contender Series 2, also a stud. Usually with the brother tandems, there's the good brother and the shitty brother, but these guys, they both look good. So it's pretty awesome to see. And what I think Javid brings to the table is he's a very long bantamweight. You don't have to see bantamweights that are 5'9". You know, he's got a longer reach than Max Holloway. He's got really serious output, which I really, really like a lot. He's well-rounded. He's lanky. He's going to give a lot of people a lot of problems. The thing is, this kid Gravely is much more experienced, and Gravely's a little tank, man. And Gravely's a guy that when he plants his feet and throws in the pocket, throws big bombs, he's got knockout power, and he can take you down. He's very, very heavy on top. He's got a good submission game. The only issue with Tony Gravely is this. He will be like dominating fights or winning fights, and then he'll just make a bonehead mistake or dive into a choke, give up his back, you know, be banging with someone and get clipped. Like, so like with Gravely, I don't think he often loses by decision. Like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like you got to finish this guy to really get to him. And, you know, so I actually see this. I see the case for a dog or pass situation here. And just on the merit of like, let's test where Basharat's at, right? Like, let's test exactly what kind of prospect is he going to be. Because I think that Tony Gravely is like the perfect prospect tester in this division. Like, kind of almost like Iwan Kutalaba up at 205 pounds. Like, if you're someone who wants to make a run at that top 15, then you got to get past Tony Gravely. But if you're someone that's just going to kind of be a middle of the road guy, you're not going to get past Gravely. But I guess the exception here would be that Javid Basharat is super young in his career. So even if he like loses kind of like a vet lesson type fight here, he can still come back from it and go, you know, go on to bigger things down the line. So this is tough, man. This is a really tough fight for me to call, because I think that Javid Basharat projects to go higher in the rankings than Tony Gravely when all things are said and done. But sometimes these young prospects need to take a roadblock along the way. Could this be that roadblock? Possibly. Gravely is experienced, and Gravely is a stud, man. The only issue with Gravely is like he'll be dominating fights and just make that bonehead mistake and get caught, right? So this one, I really don't know. The way I'm talking, I think is dog or pass. I'm going to lean Javid because I love the output. I love the tenacity. I love the well-roundedness. But Gravely's clearly fought the better level of competition, and you have to be on a certain level to go out there and beat him. So let's see if Javid's on that level. I'm very curious to find out. This is a great test for an up-and-coming prospect. So give me Javid, but I'm not laying it. I need to sit back and watch and just see exactly where he's at. And last but not least, in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Nicholas Mata. He's 12-4, taking on Cameron Van Camp, who was 15-6. And currently, they got it. Nicholas Mota minus 200. The comeback on Cameron Van Camp is plus 170. So, yeah, I've known about Nicholas Mata a long time, because shout out to my good friend Robert Hale. My friend Robert Hale actually knocked out Nicholas Mata back in the day on the regional scene. And the only place you can see the footage of that fight is actually on this YouTube channel, Half the Battle. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you type in Robert Hale highlight reel, you'll see the back and forth they had. They had a double knockdown in that fight. And when they got back up, my buddy Robert knocked him out. Shout out to Robert. I was actually just at his 30th birthday party on Sunday. And in addition to his 30th birthday party, he also had a gender reveal for his baby, and he's having a baby boy. And then to take it a step further, Sodiq Yusuf's new opponent just got announced, and it's going to be Don Shanis. And my friend Nate Williams beat Don Shanis, and Nate Williams is like best friends with Robert Hale. So they were both at the party on Sunday, and Nate Williams whooped my ass, and he whooped my ass in cornhole worse than he whooped Don Shainis in that fight. But that's neither here nor there. I think Nicholas Mata is a banger. I think he's a Brazilian jungle boy, to quote him. That's what he said. He said, I'm a kid from the jungle in Brazil. I come to bang, and that's exactly what he does. Heavy hitter. Kind of ran into the man with the most fights in UFC history in his debut, but now he's got a more doable matchup. The issue is with Van Camp. He is 6'2". He does have a 74-inch reach, which makes me question, how's that cut going to go? You were getting knocked out at 70s. What's going to happen when you do that cut to 55s? How's your chin going to hold up there? But not that Nicholas Mata's necessarily Mr. Durable. I think he's more durable than Van Camp. I think he's more skilled. I think that he is another guy that got out his comfort zone, started training in the States, which I really liked. So I'm going to lean Mata here, just not crazy about the price. But I just think he's more UFC ready. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Nicholas Mata to get this dub. All right, y'all. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch, and then I'm going to get out of here. So the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 60. I mean, listen, if it's not the main event between Sandhagen and Song Yadong, then it's got to be the co-main event between Chidi, Njokuani, and Gregory Rodrigues. I mean, I just think that I know Gregory Robocop wants to draw that line in the stand and bang, and see who goes down first. And Chidi Njokuani wants to keep his distance. He wants to chop you down methodically. He wants to be an assassin, be a sniper in there. And it's just going to make for must-see TV. So for that reason, two bangers, two strikers. You got to go with Chidi Njokuani versus Gregory Rodrigues as the fight to watch. And my fighter to watch is my prospect, Daniel Zellhuber, man. I think that this is one of the best prospects that's coming to the sport this year. The ceiling, the sky is the limit. So I just can't wait to see what kind of improvements he's made with the close to year he's had to, since his last fight, with the new camps he's been training at, with the somewhat favorable matchup he's got here, and that UFC debut. He's just a kid. How does he handle the bright lights? So a lot to see here. I want to see how he performs. I want to see if this kid goes out there and shines like I think he's going to. So for that reason, Daniel Zellhuber is my fighter to watch. So y'all do me a huge favor. Smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe button. Afterwards, leave me a comment. Feel free to share this, tweet about it, all that stuff. It really helps out the show. I'll answer some questions if y'all got some questions. I'm going to scroll up in the chat right now. I got a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to get out of here. So let's see what y'all are saying. Colby Chaos says, multiple years of track bets, over 1,000 units, bet 11% ROI on straight fight picks. Out of those 22% on slight underdogs and 31% on big underdogs. These are elite numbers, Dan. He also said, what makes it so great is that you don't risk crazy amounts per card. Everything is steady and methodical. Thank you, man. Yeah, now out here, bullshitting, laying 60 units per card. I'm not trying to go broke. You know what I'm saying? You can't get rich overnight with this shit. I mean, you can if you're lucky. Someone's bound to win the lottery every now and then, but I'd like to get incremental wins over time and still be here 10 years down the line. So that's all it is. And, I'm still not a finished product, still not perfect, but even though this is my best year, I'm still going to take losses along the way. And you just got to learn how to, fine tune those mistakes, pinpoint them, be humble, and just learn how to improve in all areas and find out what works best for you. So that's just what I'm trying to do, man. So I appreciate the kind words. Ghost Gardner said, Dan, simply one of the best out there. Keep doing it on a weekly basis. Keeps it humble, positive, mad respect. Thank you very much for your support, my man. I appreciate that. Rick the Ruler said, shout out Levy. I'm on Song all day. Hey, for y'all that are going to use that DraftKings code, it's Levy, Levi. But I appreciate you, Rick the Ruler. Josh A. Poo said, Sandhagen had a little time off. I think he comes in and looks fantastic. I could see it for sure. Ghost Gardner said, big step up for Song. Possibly. I mean, he was in there with Cheeto Vera, so maybe. Josh A. Poo said, nice hit on Liness. Thank you. I wasn't sure if we got lucky or not. Neither guy did shit. I was expecting a fight. A fight didn't break out, but yeah, I'm happy to cash an underdog on a split decision. YBP Sports Data said, what up, Dan? It's Song season. Hell yeah. I hope so. Ghost Gardner said, betting against Robocop hasn't been profitable unless you bet that Armin Petrosian. Bernardo Oliveira Aposta says, the best podcast. Thank you, my man. Damien thinks RoboCop beat Petrosian. A lot of people think that. Colby said Barriault used to train in Kung Fu Gym in Quebec City. Good move to Sanford. Yeah, for sure. MC Riddle said, rest in peace, Elias Theodoro. Yeah, rest in peace, man. You know, it just goes to show you never truly know what someone's going through. You can look as healthy and vibrant as he did and still be having that, you know, that struggle for your life, that fight for your life. So, yeah, you know, shit. Condolences, man. But this guy lived his life to the fullest. So, I don't know him personally. I didn't know him personally, but safe to assume he didn't go out with any regrets. You know, he did the thing, man. So respect. Neo Leo Butler, ATL Burner Entertainment said, "Yo, shout your boy out, ATL in the building." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Representing the A first and foremost, always and always, forever and always, my man. Let's see. Dexter Pope in the house. What's up, my man? Holloway says, hi, Junam. I know who you are. Junam is an endearing term in for Persians. If y'all have never had Persian cuisine, you're missing out some of the best food on planet Earth, man. That Persian cuisine, so fucking amazing. Sai Lil Ladher, sorry I fucked up your last name. He said it's 5:30 a.m. in Melbourne, Australia. Good morning, everyone. We'll surely watch this video again. Thank you so much for being here at 5:30 a.m., man. That means a lot. Jared said if Trevin didn't fight like an idiot, minus 205 would be one of the best lines of the card. Yeah, you know, what can I say? Jared also said, never forget the guy on Twitter who said Gamrot Sarukian was the worst main event ever on name value when Dumont and Lat headlined the card. Yep, we talked about this. 802K Mighty said, card like this, I'm so glad you make these videos. I got to go and I will catch the rest of the video later. Sounds good, man. It will be up here and on all platforms. I don't know what the fuck it took so long for it to get to Apple Podcast last week. That was kind of weird, but finally it got there. Jared Curry says, I don't think I've seen a single person pick Ladd this week, and if they have, it's on the condition of McMann just pulling a stunt and throwing. I mean, that's usually the condition for McMann losing fights, you know, for the most part, except like the Ronda Rousey fight and the Miesha Tate fight, but she pulled a stunt there too because she looked good in that first round. Rick said Rose and Esparza was lame too. Yeah, let's not even talk about that. My boy Andy G said, damn late to the party. What's up, Dan? What up, my man? Yeah, you can just scroll all the way back and just watch the beginning of this video, my man. Just Another Ape said basically the same thing. Did he start the stream with Sandhagen prediction? I sure did. So go back to the end. Ken Knoll said, what up, Dan? Any updates on the real estate venture? Yeah, I'm sitting for the state exam October 7th. So yeah, October 7th, I just got to pass that state exam. And then after I do that, I can apply for my real estate license. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. So y'all, thank you all very, very much for being here. Truly, truly appreciate it. It means the world to me. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, comment, share, retweet, all those things. You truly help out the channel by doing that. And feel free to DM me. My DMs are open. If you follow me, but I don't follow you, I don't see your comments that y'all leave me. But if you DM me, my DMs are open. I'll respond for sure. So thank you all so much for everything. Truly appreciate it. I'll be back. I think there's a week off next week, but then the week after that is Yan Jianan versus Mackenzie Dern. So I'll be back for that. We got a special guest for that one. My boy Sparring with Reality actually is going to be on that. Cool dude. Known him a while. So I'm excited to chop it up with him. Analytical mind. Should be fun. So thank you all again very, very much. Enjoy the fights. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.